Live from WTVO 17 and your home team. Eyewitness News at 5 starts now.
The problem is the vote's indiscriminate. And it could be you, it could be me, it could be the mayor, it could be anybody.
2020 shaped up to be a deadly year in Rockford. City leaders outline the rise of violent crime and how a recently passed law will impact officers moving forward. Plus, a state-line community sees its downtown thrive during the COVID-19 pandemic. Hear from a new homegrown business owner who explains why she took the risk. And a legend of golf is rushed to a California hospital after he rolls his SUV. We'll have the latest on the condition of Tiger Woods as witnesses share what they saw. Good evening, I'm Muprhy. Eric is off tonight. We now know the name of the man killed in Rockford's third homicide of the year. Investigators say 30-year-old Michael Curry was shot on Charles Street Friday afternoon. Officers found him in a car in front of Lincoln Middle School. Both Lincoln and East High School were locked down right after Curry was discovered. He was rushed to a nearby hospital where he died. No word on a suspect. If you have any information on this deadly shooting, call Rockford Police or Crime Stoppers. After a year full of financial and social stress amid the pandemic, Rockford City leaders break down 2020 crime stats. Police say violent crime increased 20% from 2019 to 2020. Homicides in the city went up 100%. 36 people were killed compared to 18 lives lost in 2019. Investigators believe the majority of murders were committed by two rival gangs. Robberies decreased by 11% and property crimes also went down. 171 people were hit by gunfire. Rockford Police Chief Dan O'Shea says most shooting victims were involved in dangerous lifestyle activities, but innocent people get caught in the crossfire.
We've seen plenty of innocent people driving their car, doing nothing, and their car gets hit by gunfire, or their house gets hit by gunfire at night. Some people move in 6 months previous. An individual lived there who was in a dangerous lifestyle, and the other bad guys don't know that, and they shoot up a house that somebody just moved into a couple months ago, and they don't have anything to do with anything.
Chief O'Shea also spoke about the newly passed criminal justice reform bill for the first time. He says the language of the law needs to be revised. He's working with other policing agencies to reword what he calls open-ended items.
There's not a police agency in the state that doesn't think that reforms should happen or can happen. It's just the method of what we reform to and what we change to. So I won't answer whether it's going to make my job more difficult. It will certainly make the officers' jobs more difficult.
Chief O'Shea says another point of contention with reform is funding. Governor Pritzker included about $8 million in the latest budget for additional police training requirements related to the bill. An Ogle County community gathers to honor the Oregon first grader killed last week. Neighbors will host a candlelight vigil remembering 7-year-old Nathaniel Burton tonight. It starts at 6:30. Ari Bruckman joins us live from Oregon. And Ari, what's the mood there right now?
Mimi, I'm standing just outside of Oregon Elementary School where Nathaniel Burton went to school. A vigil is set to start here in about 90 minutes just down the street. The little boy was found not breathing in his Oregon home last week. He was taken to the Dixon Hospital where he died. Friends, family, community members, and strangers are all expected to gather here to remember the little boy's life. Pastor Craig Arnold is one of the organizers. As the father of 2 young girls, he tells me Nathaniel's death really hit home for him.
My mind goes directly to that, like, man, she's 6, you're younger, and you hug on the littles a little bit tighter than you thought you could, and you just remind them that, Daddy's always here, and I'll protect you.
The vigil is set to begin here at 6:30. All of the proceeds from the wristbands that will be sold here tonight are going towards a funeral for Nathaniel. Reporting in Oregon for your home team, I'm Ari Bruckman.
All right, Ari, thanks for that live report. Investigators release more information on a deadly single-car crash near Perryville. This happened last night around 6:30 near Appel Lane and Linden Road in Cherry Valley. The coroner says the driver, a 19-year-old Rockford man, died at the scene after crashing into a tree. A passenger remains in critical condition. That part of Linden was closed for several hours last night. Investigators are still looking into what caused the crash. No one else was hurt. Health departments across Illinois are making strides toward more equitable distribution of COVID vaccine. Last week, we told you a population of Americans are hesitant to get the shot. Numbers from the Illinois Department of Public Health show just 6% of those vaccinated in Winnebago County are black. However, African Americans are nearly 2 times more likely to die from COVID compared to their white counterparts. Winnebago County Health Department Director Dr. Sandra Martell says she hopes today's opening of the mass vaccination center on Sandy Hollow Road will improve those statistics.
Just like we're working on our aged population who are also impacted, we are going to work with our minority communities in the same, because again, when we talk about health equity, it's raising that step up. And so I want to make sure they're taking vaccine at the same rate, if not higher rates, but we need to improve that access.
Appointments are required to receive a vaccination at the site. State line voters have their voices heard at the local level. Today is primary election day in Illinois. Eyewitness News is your local election headquarters. There are several races across local counties for city council seats, mayor, and referendums. In Belvedere, the race is on for mayor, city clerk, and 2nd Ward alderman. Rockford voters will weigh in on renewing a 1% road sales tax, as well as several city council seats. After a record turnout in November, local election officials expect fewer voters this time around. This is video from the Rockford election office this afternoon. You can see a handful of voters turned out to perform their civic duty. Polling places across the state line are practicing the same safety measures as the November election. Voters must practice social distancing and wear a mask. Election officials say pens and booths are being sanitized frequently. Polls close tonight at 7. We'll have your primary election results coming up tonight at 10. The coronavirus pandemic has rocked small businesses across the state line. Economic challenges have forced many owners to pack up shop. But one city has used the last year to revitalize its downtown. Michelle Rave joins us in the studio with more.
Over the years, downtown Rockton has seen a lot of empty storefronts as businesses come and go. But during the pandemic, the area has seen an influx of new businesses wanting to stay for the long run.
Over the last year, even through the pandemic, we've had some great places open up.
Downtown Rockton has seen an uptick in businesses over the last year. Rockton Planning and Development Administrator Tricia Diddick says 5 new businesses have opened up just this past year.
This is our form of economic development, is, providing a place that people want to be, they want to spend their time, and they want to spend the little extra money that they have. It might be that the pandemic is kind of what pushed people over the edge of, like, if it's not now, it's never, and it's time to make dreams come true.
One of those new businesses is Local Blessings. Owner Erica Sharon says despite her initial fears, she was able to make it work.
At first, I was terrified that the pandemic was hitting, and I had just bought this building, and it ended up being the best decision ever because we have a garage that's all enclosed that we could produce these boards and sand them and everything, and room to spread out.
Sharon is a Rockton native and says she was determined to do business in her hometown.
I named it Local Blessings for a couple of reasons. Local, because I'm local. I grew up in Rockton and I love everything about Rockton. We carry 20 local, vendors' products. So because of that, and Blessings, because when I started this business 4 years ago, I was determined to change my life.
She says she's noticed the downtown changes.
There were several open storefronts, and I think now there might be one. And so it's just been so great to have all these new places come in. It makes my heart so happy just to see Rockton grow and that we have so much to offer people as a destination.
According to Diddick, there's more plans for businesses to open up this year. One of those is Rockton Garden Works. It's set to open in April. Mimi?
All right, Michelle, thanks for that. For the first time since the deadly attack at the U.S. Capitol, top security officials publicly face lawmakers. Coming up, the answers senators got and where fingers are being pointed. Plus, as we warm up from our deep winter freeze, experts warn scammers will be on the prowl. Coming up at 6, we'll have tips to make sure you don't get ripped off.
And that warmer weather continues once again for us this afternoon. It up to 45 degrees after a very mild start this morning. Find out how long we'll continue with that melting snow and if there's any more snow or rain we need to be concerned with. Coming up in your most trusted forecast a little later.
You're watching Eyewitness News, your home team. with Eric Wilson, Mimi Muprhy, Sports Director Scott Leber, and Chief Meteorologist Candice King.
Golfing great Tiger Woods has been seriously hurt in a car accident. It happened early this morning just outside Los Angeles. Witnesses say the 45-year-old was driving in an SUV when he hit something on the road. The SUV then crossed over the median and another lane of traffic before rolling over. Woods was the only person inside. First responders pulled him out through the windshield. Woods' agent says he suffered serious injuries to both legs. He is expected to be okay. Police are now looking into what caused the crash. U.S. senators grill former top Capitol security officials during a highly anticipated hearing. Lawmakers say they want to get to the bottom of the security failures that left their lives at risk January 6th. Our Washington correspondent Raquel Martin has the latest as she keeps you connected to the nation's capital.
The American people deserve answers on why their capital was breached.
For the first time since the deadly January 6th insurrection, security officials in charge that day were forced to explain what went wrong.
I acknowledge that under the pressure of an unprecedented attack, a number of systems broke down.
Former U.S. Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund.
These criminals came prepared for war. I am sickened by what I witnessed that day.
And former U.S. Sergeant at Arms Paul Irving both resigned shortly after the riot and now blame their failure to prepare on a lack of information.
Based on the intelligence, we all believed that the plan met the threat and that we were prepared. We now know that we had the wrong plan.
But Michigan Democratic Senator Gary Peters insisted they knew enough to do better.
The warning signs were there.
And D.C. Police Chief Robert Conti says he also saw problems with the response.
I was surprised at the reluctance to immediately send the National Guard to the Capitol grounds.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle called the delay to bring in federal troops a security disaster.
Why would it take an hour to approve National Guard assistance?
But Sund and Irving pointed the finger at each other.
I have no recollection of a conversation with Chief Sund at that time.
In the end, lawmakers agree Capitol security reforms are needed to prevent another attack. Peter says Tuesday's hearing only scratches the surface.
It will not be our last.
In Washington, Raquel Martin.
Now, your first warned weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Candice King.
Well, it's another warm afternoon as our temperatures once again made it into the 40s. In fact, mid-40s for us here in Rockford and a lot of other locations climbing at least to that 40-degree mark. Things are pretty quiet, but we've seen a little more cloud cover move in this evening. A live look with a Mercial Skytrack camera now over the Jefferson Street Bridge. You can actually see a little bit of the sun starting to set here this evening. Should be a pretty nice sunset with a few of those clouds kind of working in overhead. But we are going to stay dry as we go through the rest of this evening. Storm system passing up to the north of us will keep a lot of that precipitation to our north. And with that system to the north and holding on to that southerly wind, the temperatures that you see right now are actually going to stay fairly steady. 37 in Freeport, 41 in Rockford, 37 in Belvedere, 36 in Rochelle, 41 for Ken in Belvedere, 42 up in South Beloit. Ben is checking in with this evening, 43 for Bob, and Jim, our weather watcher on the southwest end of Rockford, checking in with 43 degrees. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the ice that we have built up on some of the rivers, creeks, and streams. We've had actually a lot of thick ice develop here on the Rock River. Well, with those warmer temperatures, that might actually begin to break up, which you see a little bit developing here underneath the bridge. So there is a possibility for some minor ice jams, very small in area as the temperatures warm during the day and then kind of refreeze during the overnight. So something you want to keep an eye on, along with the potential for some of those river levels to go up just with some of that melting snow. Now, our frost depth isn't too far down below in the ground, so a lot of this actually able to kind of seep down into the ground. But look at the warmth. I mean, this is impressive compared to where we were just a week ago to our west and southwest, where temperatures were in the teens and the single digits. And all of this has to do with that changing in our jet stream pattern. More of that Pacific air mass working in from the west and northwest, really locking up that cold air to the north. And while we do see a couple of cold fronts come through with these storm systems throughout the week, it's not that deep cold or that strong cold like what we've had the last couple of weeks. So the melting continues during the day. You know, a good idea, make sure you clean some of the snow and ice away from some of the storm drains from around your house, so as things do melt away and seep in, you're not going to worry about any flooding concerns. Check your sump pumps too, and watch for some ice early in the morning, just as we get those temperatures at night that fall below freezing. Anything that kind of melts during the day has that potential to refreeze during the overnight. We will stay mild again tonight thanks to this warm front coming close to us. You see some snow, some rain up to the north across the upper Midwest. That is going to stay to the north here as we go through the night tonight, but it is going to keep the cloud cover around. Cold front comes in early tomorrow morning. We'll start the day off with a cloud cover. Likely won't see that clear out until we head into the afternoon, and that'll knock the temperatures down just a bit. We'll see sunshine return again heading into Wednesday afternoon, and I should say Thursday, and clouding things up again once we head into Friday. So 31 degrees, that's where we head for our overnight tonight. Sprinkle flurry up to the north, 37 for tomorrow afternoon, so not quite as warm. Those numbers then will stay in the 30s here, Mimi, as we go throughout the week. Could see temperatures drop off though a little bit and fall back below average by early next week.
Now, the Napleton Sports Desk with Sports Director Scott Leber.
NFL teams can start putting franchise tags and transition tags on their own free agents. The Bears might use their franchise tag on Allen Robinson, but that would push his salary over $20 million this year. The Bears already have salary cap issues. I don't think Robinson's worth $20 million a year, but the Bears aren't in a position where they can afford to let him walk away. If I'm Ryan Pace, I'd free up some cap space by releasing 4 players: Robert Quinn, Charles Leno, Jimmy Graham, and Bobby Massey. That'll slash more than $35 million right there. Quinn was a huge disappointment. The Bears can do better than Leno and Massey at tackle with guys already on their roster. Jimmy Graham doesn't provide enough production to warrant almost $7 million. Meanwhile, the 4th-ranked Fighting Illini take the court tonight at Michigan State after their blowout win against Minnesota Sunday. Many folks are calling the Illini a legit Final Four candidate. Now, I'm not saying they can't make the Final Four, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. First of all, that Minnesota team the Illini posterized all day Sunday is not a very good team. Secondly, in their previous 2 games, the Illini barely got by a bad Northwestern team, and they needed overtime to get by an even worse Nebraska team. The Illini have a lot going for them: athleticism, 2 legit stars in Iowa and Kofi. They shoot the ball well from the arc. They rebound very well. They could be better at free throw shooting, and they're not as deep as Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, and Ohio State. And if Io or Kofi get in foul trouble, the Illini will be in trouble because those 2 account for so much of the Illini's energy and confidence. As I said, the Illini face Michigan State tonight, then Nebraska, then comes their final 3 games. And this is where we'll find out a whole lot more about whether or not the Illini are a Final Four contender. They'll play at Wisconsin, at Michigan, and at Ohio State.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you at 6.